Most people believe success is about money, talent, or luck. But this man had none of those. He was poor, invisible, and forgotten by the world. Yet one small decision made at 5 a.m. quietly rewrote his entire life. Not overnight, not magically, but permanently. This is a story about how time, when used differently, can change everything. The city was already awake, not because it wanted to be, because it had no choice. Buses groaned through cracked roads. Street lights flickered like tired eyes refusing to close. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and unfinished dreams. In a narrow room behind a rusted iron gate, Samuel slept on a thin mattress laid directly on the floor. The room had no clock, no fan, no mirror. Just a single window with broken edges, letting in the sound of life happening without him. Samuel was 29 years old and poor. Not the kind of poor that looks temporary, but the kind that settles into your bones. The kind that whispers, "This is all you'll ever be." He worked as a laborer at a construction site. No contract, no security, paid daily when work came. Some days there was food. Some days there was only sleep to forget hunger. That night, Samuel turned on his mattress, staring into the dark. Tomorrow would come, just like every other day, and nothing would change. Samuel woke up late, not because he wanted to, but because waking up early had never given him anything. The sun was already high, cutting through the broken window. His body felt heavy, like it had fought a battle while sleeping. He sat up slowly. Outside, people were already moving with purpose. He washed his face with cold water from a plastic bucket, pulled on worn trousers, slipped into cracked slippers. By the time he reached the road, the construction supervisor had already chosen his workers. Samuel stood there, waiting, watching other men get picked. When the supervisor finally looked at him, he shook his head. No more space today. Just like that. No apology, no explanation. Samuel walked back home slowly. Every step felt like a question with no answer. That afternoon, Samuel sat outside his room. He watched ants carry crumbs bigger than themselves. He watched children run past laughing freely. He remembered when he stopped laughing. He remembered being younger, when he believed hard work was enough, when he believed time would reward patience. But time had passed, and reward never came. As the sun dipped low, hunger returned, familiar, sharp, humiliating. Samuel leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. That's when he heard it. Not a voice, not a sound, a question inside him. What if nothing changes because nothing changes? The next day, Samuel went to the roadside earlier than usual. Not hopeful, just tired of staying home. At the corner sat an old man selling newspapers. The old man had been there every morning Samuel could remember, always early, always calm, never begging. Samuel bought a paper with his last coins. As he turned to leave, the old man spoke. "You're early today." Samuel shrugged. Didn't help. The old man smiled faintly. It rarely does at first. Samuel paused. Something about that answer felt deliberate. "Why do you come so early?" Samuel asked. The old man folded a paper carefully. "Because the morning belongs to those who arrive before excuses." Samuel laughed bitterly. Morning or night, poor is poor. The old man looked at him closely. Poverty is loud, but habits are louder. That sentence followed Samuel all day. Habits are louder. That night, Samuel couldn't sleep. His stomach was empty. His mind was loud. He thought about the old man, about the calm in his voice. Samuel had always believed his problem was money. But what if it was time? What if life had been happening every morning while he arrived too late? At some point, exhaustion took over. Before sleeping, Samuel whispered something he had never said before. "Tomorrow, I'll wake up early." The night was still dark. Samuel's eyes opened suddenly. No alarm, no sound, just instinct. His body resisted. Every muscle begged him to return to sleep. "What's the point?" his mind asked. Then he remembered the old man. The morning belongs to those who arrive before excuses. Samuel sat up. The world was quiet in a way he had never known. No shouting, no engines, no pressure. Just silence. And possibility. The first week was brutal. Samuel woke at 5 a.m. and did nothing useful. He sat, he stared, he doubted. Some mornings he went back to sleep. Other mornings he just waited for time to pass. There was no miracle, no sudden opportunity. By day 7, frustration returned. "This is nonsense," he muttered. He almost quit. Almost. On the 8th morning, Samuel picked up a book he found in a trash pile weeks earlier. Old, torn, unreadable in some places, but it talked about skills, about learning, about discipline. Samuel read slowly, not because he understood everything, but because it was something he had never done before. For 1 hour, he learned. When the sun rose, he felt different. Not richer, but awake. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. 5 a.m. became normal. Samuel read. He wrote notes. He practiced simple skills. He learned how money worked, how people created value, how discipline compounds quietly. He still struggled, but now he struggled with direction. One morning at the construction site, Samuel arrived early, earlier than anyone. The supervisor noticed. "You again?" Samuel nodded. "I can help organize materials," he said. The supervisor hesitated, then agreed. That small responsibility changed everything. Samuel worked with focus, with clarity, with hunger, not just for food, but for growth. Weeks later, he was promoted. Months later, trusted. Years later, Samuel no longer waited to be chosen. Years passed. The city stayed loud. But Samuel was no longer lost in it. He owned the small logistics business now. Nothing flashy, but stable. One morning at 5 a.m., Samuel stood at the same corner. The newspaper stand was gone. The old man was gone. But the lesson remained. Samuel smiled, because he knew the truth now. Success did not arrive with applause. It arrived quietly. Samuel noticed something strange. While others complained about time, he had plenty of it. While others rushed, he moved with intention. While others reacted, he planned. The mornings gave him an invisible advantage. At 5 a.m., the world had not yet made demands. No supervisor shouting, no traffic stealing patience, no hunger clouding thought. Just Samuel and his choices. He began using the morning to think, not wish. Samuel realized something dangerous. Most people worked hard, but almost nobody thought deeply. At 5 a.m., he asked questions nobody around him asked. Why are some men always chosen first at work? Why do some people create jobs instead of chasing them? Why does money seem to avoid some people? The answers were uncomfortable, but truth often is. Samuel saw that poverty wasn't just lack of money, it was lack of leverage. And leverage came from skills, from systems, from foresight. And foresight lived in silence. During the day, Samuel worked construction. At night, he rested. But in the morning, he built a second life. He learned basic bookkeeping. He studied supply chains. He learned how goods moved across the city. He watched trucks, noticed patterns, understood delays. He didn't tell anyone. Dreams spoken too early attract doubt. One morning, Samuel tried something bold. He approached a small business owner. "I can help move your goods faster," Samuel said. The man laughed. "You? With what truck?" Samuel walked away, embarrassed. That night, doubt returned. Who do you think you are? But at 5 a.m., the doubt sounded weaker, because discipline was louder now. Samuel failed many times. Ideas didn't work. People ignored him. Money ran out. But something had changed. Failure no longer crushed him, because every morning reset him. 5 a.m. became a reminder, you are still in control. Each failure became information. Each rejection became feedback, and Samuel adjusted. One rainy morning, a shop owner complained loudly, "No transport again, my goods are stuck." Samuel stepped forward. "I can coordinate drivers for you," he said calmly. The man sighed. "Fine, try." That single word changed Samuel's life. Samuel woke at 4:30 a.m. that day. He called drivers, mapped routes, negotiated prices. By sunrise, the goods were moving. By noon, the shop owner was smiling. By evening, Samuel was paid. Not much, but enough. Momentum didn't explode, it whispered. One client became two, two became five. Samuel reinvested everything. He still lived simply, still woke early, still learned. While others slept, Samuel sharpened his edge. People noticed his change. "You're lucky," they said. Samuel smiled. They didn't see the mornings. They didn't see the cold floors, the quiet doubts, the invisible hours. Luck is discipline wearing a disguise. Success attracts resistance. Competitors undercut him. Drivers disappointed him. Clients delayed payment. Stress returned. But Samuel had trained his mind. At 5 a.m., he planned responses instead of reacting. He learned contracts, set boundaries, improved systems. Each problem forced growth. One morning, Samuel stared at the ceiling. Exhaustion weighed heavy. Why am I pushing so hard? Is this worth it? Then he remembered the old room, the hunger, the waiting. He got up. 5 a.m. waited. Something changed that morning. Samuel stopped thinking only about money. He started thinking about impact. How many people could he employ? How could he reduce waste? How could he build something that lasted? Vision expanded effort. Effort multiplied results. Samuel registered his business, bought his first used truck. The keys felt unreal in his hand. He didn't celebrate loudly. He woke up early the next day, because success demands maintenance. One early morning, Samuel walked past the old corner. The newspaper stand was still gone, but he stopped anyway. He remembered the words, "The morning belongs to those who arrive before excuses." He whispered quietly, "Thank you." Samuel wasn't rich, but he was free. Free from waiting, free from begging, free from hopelessness. Time worked for him now. 5 a.m. didn't change the world. It changed him. It taught patience, focus, consistency. It made him dangerous to mediocrity. If you're watching this and you feel stuck, maybe your problem isn't talent. Maybe your timing is. Maybe your life is waiting in the quiet hours, before the noise begins, before fear wakes up, before excuses gather strength.
Success does not mean the test is over. In many ways, it becomes harder. Samuel discovered this quietly. The business was running. Money came in more regularly. People respected him now. But pressure followed respect. Expectations followed progress. At night, Samuel sometimes lay awake, staring at the ceiling, not because he was afraid of failing, but because he was afraid of becoming careless. And so, every morning, without negotiation, he still woke at 5 a.m. There were mornings Samuel didn't want to get up. The mattress was softer now. The room was bigger. The hunger was gone. Comfort whispered gently, "You've done enough." But discipline answered quietly, "Enough ends progress." Samuel listened to discipline because he knew something others didn't. What built the life could also destroy it if abandoned. 5 a.m. stopped being about work. It became about alignment. Samuel used the time to reflect, to ask difficult questions. Am I still growing? Am I still honest? Am I still hungry for purpose? Silence exposed truth, and truth kept him grounded. Samuel began hiring young men like his old self, men who arrived early, men who didn't complain, men who listened. He didn't give speeches, he gave opportunity. Sometimes he watched them struggle, sometimes he saw potential bloom, and every time he remembered the road he came from. One morning, Samuel noticed a young man waiting by the roadside, thin, quiet, hope barely visible. Samuel stopped his car. "You're early," he said. The young man shrugged. "Didn't want to miss my chance." Samuel smiled. He had heard that answer before. Samuel offered the young man work, not because he felt sorry for him, but because he recognized something powerful: readiness. As the sun rose, Samuel felt something rare: completion. Not because the journey was over, but because it finally made sense. 5 a.m. is not magic. It doesn't make you smarter overnight. It doesn't guarantee wealth. It doesn't erase struggle. But it does one dangerous thing. It gives you ownership of your life. While the world sleeps, you decide who you're becoming. Most people want change, but they want it to happen during convenient hours. They want success without sacrifice, growth without discomfort, results without patience. But life doesn't work that way. Life listens to consistency, not wishes. The loudest success stories are written in silence, in rooms where nobody is watching, at times nobody celebrates, through habits nobody praises. That's where Samuel was shaped, not on big stages, but at 5 a.m. If your life feels stuck, if days blur together, if effort feels wasted, listen carefully. You may not need motivation. You may need structure. You may not need luck. You may need time before the noise. Try it. Not forever, just for a season. Wake up early, not to scroll, not to complain, but to build. Read, plan, learn, reflect. Give your future a head start. Nobody will clap. Nobody will care. You may feel foolish, but remember, the seed doesn't announce itself before growing. The city wakes again. The same rush, the same noise, the same excuses. But somewhere, someone rises quietly at 5 a.m. Not desperate, not rushing, just intentional. And their life begins to change slowly, silently, irreversibly. The power of 5 a.m. is not the hour. It's who you become before the world asks anything of you. 5 a.m. didn't make Samuel rich. It made him intentional. It didn't give him money. It gave him control. The world rewards those who meet it early, before fear wakes up, before excuses speak, before doubt becomes loud. And maybe, just maybe, your life is waiting for you at 5 a.m. I hope you found value in this video. How early do you wake up? Tell me in the comments section.